Well, hey there, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Rate the Record podcast, episode 3. And you are here with Kris.
And Savannah.
Ta-da!
Woo.
So we hope that you've liked the last 2 episodes so far. We're on a roll with this kind of stuff. Last week, of course, was Daughters You Won't Get What You Want. But this week, we're doing a pretty big album from the 90s. We're doing Dream Theater's, let's see, this is the long title, Metropolis, Part 2, Scenes from a Memory.
Yep.
Oh, man, but before we dig too deep into that, let's just go ahead and say that if you're watching this on YouTube, please make sure to hit the like and subscribe button. We're always trying to grow as a channel, trying to get that custom URL, so let's get to that real quick.
And you know you want to listen to more of us.
Exactly, and so far, there's going to be 3 episodes to listen to, and if you also include the episode 0, that's 4. That's 4 things you can binge listen.
Oh, yes. Please, please, please. My life depends on it.
Oh, it will eventually. So, the thing with this podcast is, if you're not new to it, if you've been here before, welcome back. We're always happy to have you here, and so you know what the podcast is all about. But if you're new, welcome. Please make yourself comfortable. This podcast, what we do is we usually choose an album at random for many reasons, I should say. We choose an album, we will talk about it, talk about the songs, we'll rank the songs, and then self-title this whole thing, Rate the Record.
Yes.
That is our claim to fame right there, is that we either love your favorite record or we hate it, and then you can yell at us.
Oh, I would love to hear it until it gets to be too much, and then I don't want to hear it anymore. Essentially.
But while we're on the topic of yelling at us, we don't exactly want you to yell at us, so we do have a disclaimer that we like to do before every single show, so that way we're all on the same level and we can all be cool and just enjoy discussing music. So the disclaimer, of course, is the following thoughts and opinions we're going to discuss regarding this album is strictly of our own personal interests. We are not professional music reviewers. We are simply 2 friends having fun, discussing, and listening to music. We encourage respectful discussion and friendly banter of each episode, but we do not condone and will not tolerate bullying or belligerence based on the opinions of ourselves or others. This podcast is a casual and for fun project, and you are welcome to take what we say regarding the albums we rate with a grain of salt. That's the first time I've done the disclaimer. The last 2 episodes were all you.
Good job.
Yeah, I got through it cleanly, and I was trying to say it slowly so I could articulate better. It's something I'm really trying to work on going forward.
I give that a A-B+. Good job.
Okay, so I'm in like the 71-72% tier of rate the host's ability to speak.
Well, I mean, if we were rating mine, I'd probably get a C-. So, I mean, you're doing good. You're doing well. You are doing well.
I am doing very well. That's way over-articulated. But anyways... So this week, last week I chose Daughters You Won't Get What You Want, but this week is Savannah's choice, her first choice going in so far.
Yes.
So she has the honors of explaining the album a little bit, talking about it. So tell us about Dream Theater's Metropolis Part 2.
All right. Well, starting with the band itself, 3 of them, John Petrucci, John Mayung, and Mike Portnoy met at the Berklee School of Music in around mid-'80s. They started a band called Majesty, which ultimately turned into Dream Theater, and 3 keyboardists, 3 singers, and 2 drummers later, they're still chugging along. The album we're doing today, Scenes from a Memory, is their 5th album. It was recorded in New York. I believe it was upstate New York, and it ranked 95 on the October 2006 issue of Guitar World magazine's list of greatest 100 guitar albums of all time. There are parts of this album, you will see why. And it is ranked as the 15th greatest concept album as of March 2003 by Classic Rock magazine. It was a little while ago, but only 4 years after it was released. Yeah. And this was released in 1999.
Just before the dawn of the new millennium.
Ooh, which they actually have a song called New Millennium.
Oh, but it's not on this album, though.
It is not on this album.
It would have been a better tie-in, so you failed for that tie-in, but thank you for explaining the album.
Okay, goodbye. Just kidding.
See, that's the thing. We're allowed to rip on each other all the time because that's part of the friendly banter stuff, so remember that with a disclaimer.
Oh, and it's just going to get much, much worse. Or better, but worse.
It's going to get really brutal, really personal, and there's only going to be like 3 more episodes of this podcast before we're just done.
That's it. Yep. You know what? Huge blowout, bring in all the listeners, and then just cruise on that.
Yep, that's going to be it. But until then, since we have a little more time, I guess we should start discussing this album a little bit.
Yes.
So all these songs are done in scenes, like there's scene 1, scene 2A, scene 2B type thing. We're just not going to mention the scenes just to keep the titles shorter.
Yes.
But we are going in chronological order, as we always do with the albums. I don't know why you'd go in any other order. So, the very first song on this album is an introduction called Regression.
Yes.
So, what were your thoughts on this one?
I didn't really have much to say about it. It's really just sort of, it felt to me like a synopsis on the rear cover of a novel where you kind of get the gist of what's going on. Not too much, but enough that you're interested in listening to it.
Yeah, and I actually noted the same thing, that there's not a whole lot to kind of grab onto this track because it opens with that like hypnotherapy type opening, just telling you like close your eyes and go to the light or something along the lines of that.
And you're like, what the hell is this?
Well, it's funny because like knowing what's to follow in this album, I don't think I'd want to be personally in a hypnotic state while listening to this album, because I mean like, I don't know, I can say this because it's legal here in Canada. I do smoke pot occasionally. But I don't listen to like heavy music when I'm high. Like I more or less watch funny videos, but if I do listen to music, it has to be not like Sublime or The Doors type chill, but I mean like lo-fi hip hop type thing. So this wouldn't be for me in this
like
type
something
of state.
Fluid, something, a little less jarring in some places.
Yeah, like Trampoline by the Wild Strawberries, Gentle Giant's Aspirations, like songs like that are really nice when I'm high.
Yeah.
But that's enough about drug smoking for one day. But yeah, that's really all I had to say about the song, because it's only like a minute long or something like that, like a minute 6, I think.
Like after listening to it sort of with my headphones and actually purposefully listening to it, I did hear further songs in the album just in the hypnotist speaking. I could hear it in the background, so I'm kind of like, okay, this is interesting. And after listening to this album for 20 years since it came out, I've never heard that until I actually paid attention to it. So that was wild to me. And just a small intro song is like, I never noticed that before. So that was kind of cool. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, it is a nice way to start the album too, but then just again, the way it builds into the second song really knocks you back a little bit, because maybe you're expecting a little more of a gentle journey to start, but now that it just jumps right in.
Yes.
So I guess, actually, before we go any further, I should have prefaced this earlier. So yes, this is a concept album, as we mentioned.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I'm still not really doing like lyrical breakdown or anything like that. I know it's like one big giant story, but
yeah.
Again, going into that, especially with an album like this, would take so long, so we try to avoid it if we can. Like, we could still mention themes and everything like that.
Yeah.
But we're not going to do like a lyrical breakdown of things.
Yeah, I have some points for further songs where it just sort of pushes the story forward without mentioning the story, because to be fairly honest, I don't even know the whole story. I kind of pieced it together over the years and from videos and visuals and stuff that I have found on my own time, but I still don't know what the hell's going on.
Yeah, I had to look it up on Wikipedia or something just to make sure I was following properly, because I don't know, sometimes it is a little harder to catch on, and because there's like a lot of instrumental portions of this, sometimes you kind of forget where you are in the story type thing. I definitely had to read up on it in Wikipedia. So if you want to know more about the story itself, then by all means you can look it up and break it down yourself.
Lots of resources for sure.
But now we go on to the second song on this album, Overture 1928. And this song just felt like the beginning of a grand adventure. Like, it felt like an opening credits sequence. Like, it's an instrumental track, so there's no vocals to kind of take away from that.
Yeah. I found it very dramatic and tight sounding, and it was I don't know, it was kind of like a sample of everything to come, because it had little bits of this song, little bits of that song. And as I'm listening to it, the lyrics are playing in my head. And I'm like, oh, wait, no, that's this song. That's that song. I'm like, oh, okay. And I learned what the hell an overture meant. I had no idea.
Oh, yes.
I never bothered to look until today.
Well, that's all right. You know now. I remember I looked up what an overture was when I first heard 2112 because of the 2112 overture.
Yes.
I cannot wait until we eventually dig into that.
we can tie Rush into everything.
Actually, if I point up a little higher, there's 2112. And there's Farewell to Kings with the 2112 crown.
Beautiful.
Everything is perfect. But yeah, so parts of the song to me like felt, as I said, like it feels like an opening credit sequence. It did feel like a cliche intro to like some old daytime TV show, or maybe like last week you made a lot of video game references.
Yes.
So this week I'll make mine. This felt like something I would hear in the game F-Zero for like one of the Nintendo consoles.
Ooh.
Just like it's like a space type racing game, and just I feel like I've heard a song like this before in one of those soundtracks.
Oh, really?
I had to look that up. I'm really curious now.
Yeah, mine specifically was the Nintendo 64 version, so that's where my ideas were coming in. And also, I'll say this now, so I don't need to repeat myself throughout the entire podcast. I'm going to say this once, and I mean this for pretty much every single track on the album. The production is nice, and it's polished, and the playing is super tight.
Ah, yes. Yes.
Like, I could say that say that for every single song, but because I don't want to keep saying it, just know that statement now goes across the entire album.
And for both of us, I definitely agree, and I definitely wrote it down for this song, and it's a blanket statement for the whole thing. Totally.
And I think because like this one was like just an instrumental too, like I don't know if it necessarily like took away from what I was expecting in this album, because again, this is the first Dream Theater album I've ever heard. So I didn't really know what to expect with Dream Theater. So when the vocals kick in the next song, like it changed in my head a little bit.
Yeah.
Not necessarily for the worse, but like I liked this song for what it was. I like it being an instrumental. It was a lot of fun to listen to. So before my expectations were changed a little bit, this was a fun one to get through.
Nice.
And I'll take it by your silence. We're ready to go on to song
Yeah.
3.
I don't have... I can't speak on individual parts of that song because they are parts of the songs coming up. So I'm going to wait until we move on and blab my mouth off coming up.
Alrighty then, sounds fair. Okay, so Strange Deja Vu is the next track on the album. Yes. The first full song with vocals. I know the first one had vocals, but like this is the first full track with vocals.
Yes. Halfway through the song, I am not a musician, as stated at the beginning. I cannot explain or articulate properly certain parts or what happens musically to describe what I like. But all I wrote was halfway through the song, when the song changes, it's kind of does sort of a transformation kind of thing. The guitar tone during that, oh my God, my heart melted. I don't know what it is. It just sounds sort of deeper and kind of, I don't know, it sounds kind of analog-y. I don't know, but I really enjoyed it. And then I rewound it. Whatever. You know what? I'm showing my age, okay? I'm trying to cover it up. It's not working.
Words fail you. It was so fantastic.
I brought it back, listened to it again, brought it back, listened to it again, then wrote my note. So it was profound. I liked it.
Yeah, I did that a couple times with this one, and I even stated before the podcast started, like, I had to do this review twice. Like, I wrote my notes, and then I had, like, I guess I'll just kind of explain this a little bit now. So the first time I listened to this album, it was really late at night, so I was kind of like tired and loopy and kind of giggly. So when I looked at my notes the next day, I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to listen to this album again to make sure everything is valid. Everything I just said has to be valid.
Yes.
For the most part, it was. So I mean, like that's how my end came out on that, and that'll come into play a little later on in the podcast as well. Oh, yeah. I did note that the aside from some of the more modern composition in this track, as you can definitely, especially to the musicians out there, you'll know what I mean. Aside from some of the more modern composition in the track, you get a lot of 80s rock and metal vibes in this one. Like, this felt like an 80s track, like, more often than not.
Oh, really?
At least I got that's what I got from it. Like, going through a good portion of the track, the differences in the verses were really nice and refreshing. I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
And there's also cool octave harmonies. Like, I think it was the second verse where the octave harmonies really started, and I thought that was like a nice little thing to add in as well.
Yeah.
I essentially did like this track. I scored it very well, and even being over 5 minutes, like, I could barely tell. It didn't really bother me that much.
Yeah,
So it goes to show how much I enjoyed this track, considering how long it is.
I find that with a lot of the tracks coming up that they are long or they're over 4 or 5 minutes, but you don't really notice because it fluctuates and changes so much that it doesn't feel exhausting. And I like how you kind of feel that at the beginning, because if you felt sort of exhausted by a song at the beginning, it doesn't push you through to the rest of it, and you're just sort of lethargic for the rest of it and don't enjoy it nearly as much.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I guess we'll just leave it off on that song, and I'll leave it off by saying I won't spoil its placement, but don't be surprised if it's like a little higher on the list. I'll say it's not number 1, but it's definitely a little higher on the list.
Let's see if we match.
Oh, we'll have.
Not saying anything.
Exactly. We can't do that yet. Not yet. Although we got really excited last week when we actually started matching in the songs.
Oh, that was exciting.
Okay, so now we move on to song number 4, Through My Words.
Yep.
I'll say this right off the top. I don't really have a lot to say for what I feel are transition tracks. Like, this was another one of those shorter songs, and so, like, it's hard to, like, pick it apart, pull it apart, and find things to say about it since it's so short, and it's literally there to transition to the next scene type thing.
Yeah.
But I'll say it is a pretty little number, and it feels very intimate and personal, so that's kind of like a nice little touch to have.
It's definitely one of those songs to me that I'm not going to explain the lyrics or, analyze them or anything, but it's really the only thing that you have to go on, because there isn't this grandiose sort of setup or sort of transformation of the song or anything, but it just sort of feels that the narrator's getting flashbacks from a past life or something that happened, and that's what he's seeing, and then it pushes on to the next song, and that's what I got from that only, and that was really it.
And as I mentioned too, being a transition track, like, this one's just like pretty much vocals and piano. That's it. So, like, you can't take away too much from this track, but you know what? It's actually not bad for what it is. So, like, I didn't score it terribly.
Yeah.
You'll find out later on, but the idea is, like, there's not much to do with it. So I guess we're just done talking about it at this point.
Yeah, it's these transition tracks, they are necessary, but they're not the meat and the potatoes. They're the lettuce on the burger.
Yeah, because these types of songs, like, especially with the way this album is presented, like, I even have it as a note in the next track, and I'll get to that when I do, but I do say that this starts to feel very rock opera to me after a while. So this is like, if this was a live performance, like if this was a theater performance, I feel like this is the part where, like, one of the stage actors comes out for, like, a monologue. Well, in the dark behind the scenes, they're literally changing the scenery. I'm assuming that you agree with me, because to those on the audio, yeah, Savannah's laughing a lot on video.
Yeah, no, keep going, it's fine.
No, that's essentially my point, though. Like, this is where, like, the monologue happens, a single spotlight, and they're just speaking or singing to the crowd, while, like, the new set is being pushed in, the old one's rolled out, and, like, actors are getting into position. That's what this song feels like to me.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm glad you do. What's so funny about it, then?
The first note that I have for the next song, Fatal Tragedy, says, feels like a rock opera. So as soon as you said that, I was like, okay, we're on the same track.
And actually, that literally is the first point. So yeah, we are on Fatal Tragedy now, the next song. Yep. Yes, my very first note that I'm looking at right now feels like it started to venture into rock opera territory. I noticed when looking into this album that Tommy by The Who was an influence with other albums as well. And I don't know if this says anything about me and how I feel about this album going forward. I'm going to be very frank right now. I don't like Tommy at all. If we ever do that album on the show, it's gonna tank with my scores. I hate Tommy with a passion.
I've actually never heard it in its entirety.
You've never heard Pinball Wizard or anything?
Well, like singles and stuff, but as an entire unit, I've never heard it. I've tried on multiple occasions to get into Tommy, so the fact that I was getting like rock opera vibes and it reminded me of Tommy a little bit, although obviously it sounds entirely different than what The Who did with theirs. Yeah. This is a whole different thing, way more metal, obviously, so there's more to enjoy. But I also like that I wrote next to it says, notice Tommy as an influence, and then parentheses, oh God, not Tommy. Oh, even then, as I said, I was pretty giggly when I was writing my notes, so I'm glad I threw that little gem in there. Oh Lord, there's actually a part in this song though, and like I said, I've listened to this album a multitude of times since it came out. I've watched a lot of Mike Portnoy drum instructional videos with my dad. Mm-hmm. And while he was doing this song, he was talking about doing sort of a shrink and grow with his like drum riffs and stuff like that. And if for anybody listening, if you want to check that out, it starts at 4 minutes, 30 seconds. And it's sort of, 4 bars of this, I guess sort of neutral, and then 3 bars of something else, and then goes back to neutral, and then 3 bars of the first, and then it goes to 1 and 1, and then it grows again. Mm-hmm. And it sounds really cool. I really like it. And I 100% fail by counting the bars on my fingers as it goes. I'm like, okay, I've lost it. I've heard it. Yeah. I've heard it so many times, but I've lost it. But I really enjoy that.
And to anyone who is watching on YouTube, if it looked like I just went on my phone for a minute there, I did, because I'm literally pulling up the track listing of the album, because I wanted to see the times of the song, because I forgot how long certain ones were. Especially because when you mentioned a certain part of the song, like at the 4 minute whatever mark, like that's when this thing happened type thing. Yeah. Because I have a note like that too, so that's why I have the track listing on the phone now. Because one of my notes is the section that starts around 2:20 is probably by far my favorite, but unfortunately it's been like 2 days since I've listened to this album and I already forget what that portion is, but apparently I liked it enough to make a note of it. But also, I guess to be fair, you did mention around the 4 minute mark, and I have another note that says that the second half of the song felt far more exciting than the first. Like the first just kind of felt like taking a walk, but then when the second half of the song kicks in, it got exciting. I wanted to listen to it more. As compared to the first half, I was like, I could probably just skip this if I wanted to. Yeah. So thankfully it picked back up.
So speaking about your sort of 2 minute enjoyment mark in the song, I actually also forget how long the song is, but I did make a note that I adore the sort of chugging of the guitar about a third of the way into the song. So I wonder if that's the same thing, because I really enjoy that.
That, I mean, it's considering that it's 6 minutes and 49 seconds looking at the list here. So yeah, that's probably around the exact same area, and that was my favorite part of the song.
Excellent. Yep.
I think we're agreeing on a little too much here. We have to stop.
Uh-oh. Okay, Justin Bieber next week. That's what we're doing.
Oh, boy.
That's it.
Oh, but I wanted to really do artist. I almost said it, too. It's actually kind of a duo, but I mean, I won't say any more than that. But okay, let's just move on to the next song anyway, before I spoil next week's episode. All right, so Beyond This Life, one of the songs that got a higher score on my ranking here. Although I will say, there's a lot I can say about the vocals in this album. Not that they're bad, but I feel like more often than not, the vocals start taking away from the music itself. And like for the first 3 minutes, it's not that he's bad, but just like, I just felt like it didn't suit everything happening behind him. And again, to those listening to the audio version, Savannah's smiling a lot, so I can assume she had some similar notes.
I'm going to read this just verbatim from my notes here. Okay. I know the lyrics are supposed to push the narrative along, but I hate lyrics that are so straightforward it distracts from the song as a whole. I love the music, but just listening to him describe everything, just the lyrics, I'm like, I hate it. I hated it.
And that's where I said it got really rock opera type thing, because like, you don't have to go super deep metaphorical with every single lyric you write, but at the same time, like, I've made jokes before about the way Joni Mitchell wrote some of her songs, how it was like just straight up like beat for beat, like this is her day, and like I walked to the store, I got into the store, I took an album, a thing off the shelf.
There is a Soul Asylum song, and I like the whole album except for this one song, and he describes everything she's doing step by step, and I'm like, we're done. I don't care how good the music is, that just turns me off immediately. So the end of this song, nice. I like it. The beginning, no. Cut it off. I'm done.
Looking at my notes, we're agreeing again, aren't we? So I'll read these 3 notes that I have right here because they're short enough. So yeah, first off, the instrumental music is a lot of fun to listen to. So essentially, once he's done singing, that's like just like the previous track, it got exciting again. Mm-hmm. The second note I have is, so to anyone out there who knows the band Between the Buried and Me and what they sound like in their album Colors, which we're again probably going to have to do that album too. It's like a metal masterpiece. Songs like this, I can hear where Between the Buried and Me got their influences from. Like they have several, but like this one, as soon as I heard like the fun portions of this track, I was like, holy shit, that's BT Bam, isn't it? Like obviously, like this album came out before BT Bam released their first, so like they were like just kids listening to like things like Dream Theater and Queen, for example. Mm-hmm. So, but this is a track where I can definitely hear the influence. And also, speaking of artists attached to this track, I also have written second half was highly entertaining. It's like Frank Zappa went metal. I had a lot of fun listening to it.
That's a pretty good description on it for sure. I
specifically noted that I like the bass. I definitely like John Mayung's playing. If you watch him play, he's just like a concrete statue, and his fingers are just like, and it's just like, what the hell did I just watch? Like, I just went cross-eyed, and I like that a lot, and I hear it in certain spots of this song that is very pleasing.
That reminds me a lot of when I went to go see Nine Inch Nails live in 2012 or 2013. It was the Tension Tour. They just released the album Hesitation Marks, and they had Pino Palladino play live with them on bass, and he's like one of the greatest bass players still alive right now, or ever, period. But the idea is like, yeah, he's one of those guys who are just like so super focused on his instrument. Like, he doesn't move. Like, he's standing there just doing his thing, and he sounds amazing doing it. So like, I can respect that. I like energy on stage. I like a good light show. I like everything like that. But if a musician's not moving, it's because they're focusing on what they're doing and just getting the best performance, that's fine too.
Oh, heck yes.
And I mean, like, you know, I've seen some older bands where the guys are like 60 plus, and so they're not moving much on stage. So you're literally just watching them stand there and play music, and that's fine. I can deal with that.
Yeah.
It felt like a weird mix seeing them, Pino with Nine Inch Nails, but at the same time, I mean, I dug it. He sounded really good.
Oh, hell yeah. And that's really all that matters, is just, you know, getting the point across, right?
Yeah. Oh, no. All right. Let's move on to my absolute favorite song on the album.
Yes. Oh, no, don't spoil it.
Did I just do that? Oh, no.
Oh, no, as she taps her nose and winks.
Through Her Eyes, track 7. Yeah, I mean, if you can't tell of the stress in my voice right now, it's clearly not my favorite. I actually struggled to write good things about it. So, okay, I'm going to point this out really quick. As mentioned earlier, yes, we already mentioned it's a concept album. Yes, I know there's story attached to this song. And reading about the story of this album, I understand where this song sits. But we're not doing lyrical breakdown.
Yeah.
I'm going by what I heard, and I heard, okay, first off, the intro to the song, which was like 90s pop diva, like this girl just doing like the vocal gymnast.
Yeah.
That threw me for a loop. I didn't know, I immediately had a bad feeling.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, it turned out to be a very poppy ballad. Like, I even wrote down in parentheses, the 90s kid in me could have sworn they heard this on the Much Music Countdown at one point. Just because, like, oh man. You want to write a ballad, that's fine, but I mean, this was so hardcore generic ballad, it just sapped all the energy out of me, and I kind of wanted to stop listening at that point. And it was halfway through the album, that's even worse.
I thought it was very straightforward musically. It was another song to push the story forward, but I did not care for it.
if this was like another one of those 1 minute songs, I could dig that and be like, okay, good. It's just, again, changing the scenery behind us and just doing a monologue on stage. But no, this is a 3-minute monologue, folks.
Yeah.
This was too much. Like this probably spoils the positioning on the list. I really don't care, because I really don't care for this track.
Yeah.
Like I tried, I listened to it twice, and I'll tell you right now, when I was listening to this album, I said the first time I was all tired and loopy, I kept laughing while the song was playing, just because of how bad it was to me. Like, I couldn't stop. Like, at one point I was like just creating a dialogue with myself, like commentating on the track, and I was nearly in tears just ripping on this album.
I just imagine you listening to it and then having to look, going, okay, did something else come up in my playlist? Like, what is this on here? What's going on?
Yeah, I made sure I was still listening to Dream Theater. I was like, I didn't just skip to like a 90s playlist, did I? Like, no, this is straight up just the same album, and we're only halfway through.
Oh God. Yep. I don't have much to say that refutes any of your points.
But I did manage to write. I managed to write one good point.
Ooh.
I do love a good fretless bass.
Oh yes. See, that's what I'm saying. John Mayer, he's a monster. I love it.
I love the meowing sound of a fretless bass. It's a very kind of like a. Not sassy is not the word I'm looking for. Alluring, attractive, like that kind of thing. Maybe a little sassy, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's a really cool sound. I love fretless basses.
Yeah.
Kind of like I think I realized I first liked fretless basses when I heard New York Minute by Don Henley.
Yeah.
Again, Pino Palladino playing on that track. Imagine that. He's everywhere in the music world.
Nice.
But just good fretless bass. There you go. I said something positive about the song.
Yay.
But now
notable time.
Good news. We get to move on.
Yes.
Because I am done with that song for now until I rank it.
Now let's go home.
Yeah, we're gonna have to. And actually, thankfully, this song was an improvement. And this is another point where I broke out laughing while writing my notes. And actually, I remember this part because there's a synth in the beginning where there's a synth setting, or like a VST you can have, or I mean, back then it would have straight up just been synth. Yeah. I don't think there were VSTs, but anyway, they were using the vowel synth sound, and like it was just making yow sounds, and I was just like, I pointed at my monitor like, they're using the vowel synth. I just started laughing. I was like, please don't make this another bad track. I can't do this. But thankfully, the song picked up, and it actually turned out to be a really good track.
I really, just from the get-go, I liked sort of what I assumed to be, like sort of a synth setting, the sitar, because I can imagine none of them are playing it. But, I could be wrong. I'm not sure. But the sitar sound and the chimes at the beginning, I'm like, ooh, what is this? I like this. And then when the music hits, I'm like, okay, I'm a little more interested. Let's see what's going on.
Yeah, I liked the introduction of the sitar. I think someone was actually playing it, especially if they went to the Berklee School of Music. Chances are one of them knows how to play the sitar.
Yeah.
And also, I love how the sitar matches the acoustic, too. I really like how they're kind of both playing like in time with each other really tightly, just so it kind of adds more tone to the music itself. Just a lot of fun. But also, even on that note too, with like sitars and just like the way the song was structured, I got some really heavy Tool and Tea Party vibes in the first couple minutes of this song.
I definitely agree with the Tea Party.
Because like, yeah, some of it felt like structured like Tool, but yeah, like it felt like early Tea Party, like Edges of Twilight. God, I can't remember the first two albums, and they're like my absolute favorite. But Edges of Twilight was the very first one. I know that much.
So anyone watching on YouTube, I'm just checking the Wikipedia page for the personnel for this album to see if someone played sitar. Doesn't say it, but I'm just kind of curious to
because it sounded a little too clean to be a synth, especially for like the late 90s.
Yeah, I wasn't sure, but
it could still
I don't know,
be.
it doesn't say anything. Maybe uncredited. Who knows?
That's possible too. That happens a lot in these types of albums and everything like that.
Oh, totally. But for me, this song, I kind of, I don't want to say I have a personal connection to it, but it's just the one on here that I've heard the most. So I may be a little biased just from exposure. But to me, it didn't feel like it was 12 minutes long at all.
And actually, that's a point I have too. It's like, it's because it's nearly 13 minutes long. I think the runtime maybe only got to me like once, but it kind of like resolved itself quickly, and I was like, okay, I can still continue with this. And I think the reason why that was because there was a lot of compelling imagery in this song.
Yeah.
Like just a lot that comes to your mind while you're listening to it. There were vocals in this one, if I remember correctly. Again,
Yes.
I'm having a hard time remembering which one's which.
Yes.
But it didn't last a whole long time. It kept coming in and out, but like the instrumentals again were a lot of fun. And just you don't really know the runtime that much.
I could have done without the female panting and moaning at the end. That was just like, okay. But I kind of sort of connected it to, the idea of the story of someone dying and tragedy and stuff. So I'm like, okay, like I see where it fits, but I listen to it going, this seems kind of off, I guess. I don't know.
It because I read a little on the album and like the story and everything like that. I this might have to do something with either the murder itself that the album talks about. It could be sexual, like it could just be like someone hooked up and then got murdered type thing.
Yeah.
So that's what I got from it. But I was like, someone's getting fucked.
Yeah,
in more ways than one.
This is weird. There was one funny part in this though. I'm almost positive this is the only song that actually says the title of the album, Scenes from a Memory. And it just reminds me of Family Guy when Peter Griffin's sitting in the movie theater and he's commenting on every movie that says the title of the movie in it. And I'm just sitting there and that's all I see. So when he sang Scenes from a Memory, I was like, oh, he did it. He said it. He said the title. And I was like, oh my God, I'm one of them now.
God, I haven't watched Family Guy in forever, so I don't even remember the moment, to be honest.
I
can see that happening, though. It sounds like a
yeah.
Peter Griffin thing to do.
Oh, yeah. That was the first thing that came to my head.
If anything, it reminds me of the YouTube channel Cinema Sins, where like the guy just goes through and like picks apart movies and every time they say the title of a movie in the movie, he's just like, roll credits.
Definitely have seen that. Yeah, I can. Yeah.
So shout out Cinema Sins. There you go. Even though you're way bigger than us.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe you'll get the rub now. You'll get a few more subscribers because of us.
Ooh.
Or maybe vice versa.
I mean, fingers crossed, right? Moving on.
Let's move on to the next track, actually, because that's all I pretty much had to say about that one. It was a long track, but it was fun to sit through. I didn't mind it at all, except for maybe like one moment, and that was about it.
Yeah.
So, The Dance of Eternity is the next track, number 9. Yes. There is so much going on in this song, but nearly all of it caught my attention.
Yes.
So it's not like so much was happening that it was just like flooding by me, like you're driving really fast down the street, just the streetlights are whizzing by. Like I was looking at those streetlights, every single one that was going by me.
Yeah.
So I mean, like this was another one of those tracks that was like a lot of fun to get into and listen to.
I really like just in general, but specifically in this song, it's the topic, but just the drums, how certain players can make it sound kind of like they're lagging or they're slower or they're just sort of sloppy. There is something about that I just love. It I don't know, it kind of adds like a lethargic sort of like, it's still on beat, still perfectly tight, but it just sounds loose. And I heard that at the beginning of this track and I really enjoy that a lot. And I know, sort of going off on a tangent, that Tom Petty's earlier albums kind of have that vibe to it too. But I really noticed it in this one.
Well, and I could see that being a thing too, because again, if they went to Berkeley, then they know what they're doing by composing a track like that. They're not just doing that because like, we didn't feel like going all the way with this one, so we're just going to release it as is. It's like, no, they did this on purpose.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And even feeding off of that too, I did mention that there are like varying levels of energy and intensity, and it kind of keeps the track always feeling like new and fresh and all the time.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, you're not just stuck with one thing for the entire track. Like it does kind of play with you a little bit as it's going. So I really enjoy that aspect of it.
And the little ragtime break.
Yeah.
That I never really sort of pieced that together, but this time listening to it, kind of putting it into context, I kind of feel it's sort of indicative of the sort of era that they're talking about, because I just assume that the overture 1928 kind of takes place then, and then coming to the ragtime, I'm like, okay, I'm seeing how these are connecting and stuff like that. And it was a nice sort of breath of fresh air from the rock, and then you're just like, okay, this is just a ragtime piano solo. What? Like, I like it, but what?
It's another point where I could also hear where the influences for Between the Berry and Me came from again, because they add elements like that, and they have one song on Colors. I'll just say this really quickly because I know we're not talking about BT Bam, which is just a short way of saying their name. There's this one part where it sounds like a hoedown going on in the middle of the song. Like, it's like progressive metal. Ooh. And like it's really, really good for what it is. But yeah, they add all these weird things at certain points in songs, and yeah, there's one track where they literally just have like a hoedown. You hear glasses breaking. You hear people like yelling at each other. Oh, what y'all doing over there?
Oh my lord!
And like you just hear this like banjo going crazy, and then the metal just kicks back in out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's things like this where I can hear where certain bands get their influence. So it's really interesting to kind of like visit some of these influences.
Oh yeah, especially if you haven't heard them before, and then when you do, you're like, oh my god, like I get it. I get this. Heck yes.
Alrighty then, song 10, One Last Time.
Yes.
So I don't know, my note's a little longer here. I have like literally only one note for this song, so maybe I'll let you start and try to feed off of that.
Well, I have two, so I have twice as much. I enjoy singing this song. Just for personally, it is in my register. I enjoy it. And that adds a point automatically if I can sing it without killing my throat. And the piano at the end that leads into the next song, I cannot stop hearing Inspector Gadget. That's it. That's all I have to say is about that song. I love singing it, and the piano at the end makes me laugh.
Fair enough. I mean, and actually, it's funny that you mention the vocals too, because that was actually my main note of this song. Again, this is one of the shorter ones too. It's let's see, One Last Time. That one's 3 minutes and 46 seconds, so it's like your basic like radio length track.
Yeah.
I'll read this just like you did. I'll read mine verbatim too. There's something that takes away from the cool instrumental track previously. Once the vocals kick in, I think I might have written that wrong. But anyways, and then parentheses it says, maybe the vocals themselves, maybe how the structure of the song suddenly changes, I don't know. But again, this is another one of those times where I felt the vocals took away from the song.
Yeah.
I feel like this could have just been an instrumental album and been fine.
I agree. I do agree, yes.
Because I know not everyone loves instrumentals because like a lot of people rely on like vocals to lead them through tracks.
Yeah.
But instrumental songs and albums can tell as much of a story as any lyrics can.
Yes.
Because like depending on how it's written and how it's performed, it can take you on a journey. Like there's many instrumental songs on this album that do that very thing. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. Just again, he's not a bad singer. It's just it feels out of place.
Yeah. I like I said, I like it because it's in my register and I enjoy doing it. And it's not the high-pitched sort of jarring vocals that sometimes I have heard. Yeah. It's more of a mellow, slow, and I like that probably because it's a welcome change.
Yeah, I mean, that works.
Just the tone of it. Really.
No, yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
And I guess just because I never thought about singing one of these tracks like you would, so maybe that's why I was a little more scathing about it.
Yeah.
I don't know. But we will now transition to the next song. Yes. The Spirit Carries On. And right on my first note, I can tell I was still in my giggly mood. Because, again, straight up, was worried in the beginning about another weird ballad, but phew, a power ballad.
Yep. It definitely sounds like a resolution where it's just sort of like you're talking about the stage monologue rock opera. It feels the end where the cast all comes out and they're all singing together, and it's very, I don't know, it's big and final, and before everybody takes a bow and walks off.
Yeah, because I mean, I could see that happening with all the actors walking up, especially like within the middle section too, because the middle section was probably my favorite part of the song. Just really well written, and it felt relaxing in a kind of heavy way. I don't even know how to properly describe that, but that's how it made me feel. It's like, this is soothing, despite the fact it's not like your usual soothing kind of thing.
Yeah. I definitely wrote down so much guitar wankery. Like, I'm not saying it's bad or anything, but there was some guitar wankery.
I think that's the bastardized version of my next note here. If Queen and Pink Floyd had a baby, it's the last third of this track. Like, I can hear both those bands in the final portions of the song, so it's just there's your guitar wankery right there. You got a little bit of a Roger Waters, you got a little bit of a Brian May, and they're just kind of having a guitar battle over there. A guitar wank off.
Yeah. Like I've heard the term where it's guitar solos where they're not necessary or just obnoxious ones, and I wouldn't really classify it as obnoxious or unnecessary, but I can definitely see somebody just trying to fit as many notes in as possible.
Yeah, you feel like you have some sort of like note quota to meet.
Yeah. And
I said 300 minimum.
I noticed it the most in this one part, which is good that it came at the end and it wasn't sort of irritatingly at the beginning.
Yeah.
But I did notice it because it was such a sort of change to me from the rest of the album.
Yeah, that makes sense. I can agree with that. Because then we finally transition into the final song, and we're finally free of this album.
Yes.
No, I mean, that makes it sound terrible, but no, the last song is finally free.
Yep.
And like, there's very little imagery being created in this track too, especially like with the end when it's just like nothing but like sound. It's like all folly at the end.
Yeah, just keys, cars, gravel, doors, just sort of following someone into their house and stuff like that.
Yeah, considering like this is the end of the album and we know it's like a concept album, it is like a decent and well thought out end to the album, but at the same time it went on way longer than it needed.
Yeah.
Like especially with the staticky ending, like you could have had that go for like 30 seconds to a minute and still get the point across. You didn't need to drag it out forever.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know, just again, not breaking down the story portion too much of it, but it did leave me like a little confused at the end, wondering like, was this all just a dream type thing?
Yeah.
Because I know like the whole album is basically a flashback or, scenes of a memory. So like this, it comes back to modern day, and then I don't know, because you hear the psychologist guy come in at the last second there, the hypnotherapist, he's just like, wake up, and then you're like, oh, and then you hear static. I'm just like, what just happened?
Yeah, it feels like a movie where at the end it'll be like, the end, ? And you're like, no, come on, that was enough, we don't need a sequel, stop it, just cut it at the end. This song just to me felt like the beginning, felt like regression, where it was just a bumper for the meat in the middle. Yeah.
And I mean, the ending to me felt a lot like the movie Inception, spoiler alert, where the end where he spins the top on the table and then his kids show up, and then it's like you don't know whether or not it's a dream.
I've never seen Inception.
Well, you're a little too late now.
Oh no, please don't spoil an over 10-year-old movie.
Yeah, that's the thing. I love when people get so angry about spoilers of older movies.
Oh no, please don't spoil Indiana Jones. I've never seen it before.
Don't spoil Jaws for me.
Oh, spoiler, the shark wins.
The shark go boom.
Whew.
But yeah, that's kind of what the ending felt like to me. It felt like an Inception Chris Nolan type thing, but also just still left me with more questions than answers, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't really have many notes for this. Didn't have really many thoughts to it. It was just sort of a bumper. It was just sort of the end hardback of a novel where it's just sort of, and they lived happily ever after, the end. Pfft, done. And it's like, okay, that's okay. Okay, sure.
And then you go to one of those like free little street libraries, those tiny little birdhouse things where you put all the books in, and you just take the book, you open the door, put it in, never have to read it again. Someone else can.
I'm excited to see your list after that.
I'm making it really sound like I hated this album. I'll say this much: I didn't hate it, I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad I picked this one because it was definitely divisive and
I don't know the English language either, so don't worry about it.
and I'm glad you've never heard it before, so I get a new set of ears on something that I've heard a lot.
I'm definitely gonna have to check out more Dream Theater albums, because I'd hate to be, I'll say this much about the album, I'd hate to think that this is the impression I get from them if they have something better.
Yeah.
So
well, maybe it was good to start you on this one because it's just upwards, and that's it.
I sincerely hope so, because if it's like this for the rest of the discography, I mean, can't say I'm going to have to go back to these albums too often.
I really don't want anybody to come after me, but don't listen to The Astonishing if you don't want some weird concept album that you're probably not going to enjoy. I love everybody that listens to us. With all of my heart, but I watched them play that entire album in concert, and the best thing I got out of that was a sweatshirt. And I love them. I'm sorry, but I'm just a warning to you.
I saw Dream Theater play this album, and all I got was a lousy sweater.
It's the most comfortable sweater I've ever bought.
I don't know where I'm going to start after this, but we will see. I'll get somewhere. Yep. And I mean, you're afraid of people coming after you. I realized while editing episode 2, I may or may not have referred to certain Needle Drop fans as chumps, which is going to get me killed. But I want to point that out really quick too, just so we're all on the same page here. I'm not calling everybody who listens to Needle Drop a chump, because I do too, actually. I love that channel. I'm talking about the people who take Fantano's words as like prophecy, like whatever he says the album is what it is. Like, you won't listen to it yourself, you just like it because he does. He's commented on that before too, saying please listen to the album by yourself, have your own opinions. If you agree with me, fantastic. If not, that's awesome, because you have your own opinion. When I said chumps, when I said chumps, that's the people I meant, not everyone else, or else I would be one of those chumps too.
I think I watched him. I think it was him. I watched him review a Kevin Gilbert album, and not a lot of people know who he is. So I'm like, oh my God, I got to see what he says about this album that I really like. And I left going, the hell? I don't agree with this. This is terrible. Yeah. But I respect his opinion. I just do not agree with it. I mean, in that one specific instance.
He's the reason that I got into Daughters in the first place, because the way he did You Won't Get What You Want, and he gave it a perfect 10. Or a strong 9 to light 10, but he classifies it as a 10. And he doesn't give 10s often. It wasn't because he gave it a 10, but just the way the album was described, I'm like, I might like this. So then, I gave Daughters a try, and lo and behold, I really do like that. I own it on vinyl. I would go get it, but it's already a week old. We can't do that anymore.
Moving on.
Speaking of moving on, it's time to actually rank the songs.
Yes.
This is where things are going to get a little nutso. So
I might have to throw a party over here. We'll see how things go.
Yeah. Because if anyone's paying attention, and we also put these on Instagram as well. Yes. We do, later on in the week after the episode comes out, we do these little posts that tells you like what rankings we gave them if we matched, and like our lifetime matching rank. And so far we are 3 for 21 going into this album. Not
too bad. That's what, a 7th?
Something like that, yeah.
Nice.
I'm terrible at doing math in my head, but it's something along the lines. So we'll see how far, or how much I should say, we can add to that lifetime matching goal today.
Yes.
Hopefully we'll match. So let's get right into this now. So number 12, no surprises if you've been listening to this episode, Through Her Stupid Fucking Eyes.
And I'm just going to straight up say, we don't have to explain why. I agree. It is my 12th. I could not care any less than I do for that.
Again, not even talking about the story. Other than that, this song had no place on this album. It really didn't. I'm sorry if you like this track. By all means, continue to love it. I'm just an idiot on the internet talking about music. You're your own person. But I didn't like it.
Yep.
And actually, so every week I usually write down yours on paper, so that way when I'm editing, I could do like the little list that we have on the video portion, at least. So if you're on audio, sorry you don't get to see it. Watch the YouTube version. But anyways, so when I'm writing the song titles, I actually wrote Through Her Stupid Fucking Eyes instead of just Through Her Eyes. So I hope I actually remember to do that in editing. I'll just write Through Her Stupid Fucking Eyes. That'll be great and anger everybody.
Oh, geez. But just blank out the F word with the Dream Theater logo.
Yeah. Okay. Number 11, I feel like this was probably inevitable. Regression.
Mine is Finally Free. So I went complete opposite end.
No problem. Again, I only chose Regression because there wasn't a whole lot to go on as it was.
Yeah.
Obviously not the worst song on the album.
Yep.
I have to emphasize that because it's the last track. But yeah, with Regression, again, as I said, nothing to really go on, but it starts you off like you're getting ready to take off and experience more of the album, and it doesn't do a bad job of doing it, but just because there's not much else, I have to put it lower on the list.
Yeah. I got Finally Free, pretty much the same sort of reasoning, opposite end of the spectrum, ties everything up, sort of ends it, and it doesn't push anything forward. It's just kind of, this is what happened, this is how it ended, we're done. So yeah, that's really it.
I have that coming up a little later on the list. It actually, I scored it higher than I remember scoring it, but I listened to this twice, so it's there for a reason. But anyways, number 10, Through My Words, the other Through song, but this one's obviously better than the other one.
Yep.
I don't know why I'm writing that, because this is on your list, not mine. Mine's on the computer. But yeah, I really did. This song was fun. I'm just kind of scrolling back up to my notes, so I have this in my head again. Yeah, as I said, it was fine for what it is. It's just a transition track to me, but it is pretty. Feels intimate, but not much to go on. So yeah, number 10 on my list.
I got The Spirit Carries On for my number 10. I really enjoyed the guitar wankery, no matter how much I was kind of shitting on it.
Yeah.
I did enjoy it. But it just sort of felt like the narrator is, sort of experiencing a resolution, has learned something, one of those typical, they came out better in the end, and it was the guitar solo bit that saved it, but didn't save it from being higher than number 10.
Fair enough. So number 9, I actually have Fatal Tragedy. This song is lucky it didn't get lower on my list because I did enjoy it, but because it made me write the note, "Oh God, not Tommy," that's the reason why it's so low on the list. Other than that, as I said, I had a favorite portion of the song, and I think it was the chucking guitars that we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
And just the second half of the song was really exciting. So that's what at least brings it a little higher than last place type thing. So yeah, that's my number 9.
Okay, so my number 9 is Beyond This Life, and I could use your explanation for Fatal Tragedy for Beyond This Life. The beginning of it, the end of it, yes, I'll take it completely. Cut it off at 4 minutes? Last 4 minutes of the song, thumbs up, I liked it. The beginning, stop it, instrumental it, cut off the explanation, vocals, lyrics. I know it's part of the story. I know it's a concept album. That is not lost on me. It is not my preference to listen to descriptive scenes. Let me think of it. Let me picture it myself, please.
Well, and actually, that's one of the songs too where I said where it the vocals took away from essentially everything else that was happening. I'll get into that shortly as it comes up a little later on my list. But for now, number 8 is Overture 1928. The song that I felt like was an opening credit sequence. Because that's just what it reminds me of. I mean, instrumental track, a lot of fun, but it wasn't enough to grab me too much, though. I could sit through it and be fine with it, but it's not my favorite track on the album, so I mean, it's there. It serves its purpose. I can respect that, but other than that, it's number 8 on my list.
Mine is Through My Words. I wasn't going to put it at number 1. Wasn't going to put it at number 12. I don't really have an explanation for it. It's just somewhere in the middle.
Yeah. I mean, hey, if it fits there, then I mean, it's better than anywhere else.
Yeah, I didn't feel that it should be any lower, but it definitely wasn't going to be any higher.
Yeah, fair enough. Scroll down on my list here. Okay, so number 7, I have One Last Time. And again, this is just another one of those tracks where I felt the vocals kind of took was taking things away from the song itself.
Yeah.
But it was still an interesting enough track to be like pretty much at the halfway point of this list.
Yeah.
Didn't hate it, didn't love it. Again, served its purpose, but just make this an instrumental album. Seriously, everything would be rated a lot higher at this point.
Oh, hell yeah. I tossed Regression into number 7. I figured middle of the road. It did sort of start the story, start the imagery, and that was pretty much it. Didn't love it, didn't hate it. It's right in the middle. I'm seeing that my middle 3 or so are just kind of there because they just didn't deserve to be higher nor lower.
Yeah. That's why I kind of feel like a few of the songs on my list too, especially with this one. The Spirit Carries On is what I have at number 6. Again, I was, because like this kind of came off as like, oh no, we're gonna get into another ballady type track. Please Don't Be Through Her Eyes Part 2. But this one like turned into like a power ballad type. I'm not huge on power ballads, but like I can enjoy them for what they are.
Yeah.
The song was interesting to listen to, and this is the one I mentioned where like, Queen and Pink Floyd having a baby because of all like the guitar shenanigans that happens. But the middle of the song is still fantastic. I think this is rightfully sitting in the middle of the list.
I have One Last Time.
I still enjoy singing that song. I don't care. I love it.
I actually thought you would have ended up scoring that higher because of that.
Oh, no. We're going to get to see what's up at the top. It's ones that I will sing to, but probably not in public.
The good news is we still have 3 that we could potentially match on. I'm looking at the list here. I'm looking at my list and then what you still have left on yours. So hopefully, it's not going to be number 5 though, because my number 5 is Finally Free.
Yeah.
I did enjoy the song. Again, if the ending didn't happen with all like the folly sounds and then like the long staticky drifting in there at the end, probably would have rated higher. I did enjoy the song for what it was. And as I said, it's a decent, well thought out ending to the album, so it had to go into the top half of my list because of that.
Yeah. I got Strange Deja Vu. I don't know. I'm starting to feel like I don't have explanations for any of my rankings. It's starting to feel arbitrary at this point, but just there's something about this one and the ones that I ranked higher that those are the tracks that if I were to just listen track by track on this album, these are the ones I would go to, and this is where I would stop. I would listen to them and just, that's it. I'm just going to move on to something else.
Yeah, we could literally probably make this portion of the podcast a little faster by like not re-explaining why we like certain songs.
Yeah.
I feel like it's just like justifying why you have it in the position you do.
Yeah.
But I mean, we don't even really have to do that. Like, who are we trying to impress? All of you out there?
Oh, you're not impressed by me anyways.
And we told you right in the beginning of the podcast to take what we say with a grain of salt.
Mm-hmm. And pepper, whatever.
Unless you completely agree with us, then you have to like, comment, subscribe. You are obligated. But I wish you would have held off on Strange Deja Vu for one placement, because my number 4 is Strange Deja Vu. We were so close on it. But yeah, you know what? I'm just going back through my notes. Actually, you know what? I probably shouldn't go back through my notes. Try not to justify it anymore. Maybe we could just take it for what it is. I enjoyed the track, had a lot of fun with it, and that's about it.
Mine, for number 4, I got Overture 1928. I enjoyed the sort of run through of the album, I guess. I feel like you could just listen to that song, get the instrumental bits out of the rest of the album, and be like, all right, I understand what the album's about. Okay, we're done. Case closed. We're done. That's it. Yeah. And I like that. And just from, like I said, a listener who's heard it multiple times before, I would kind of hear the vocal melody or whatever comes next in my head. And when it just jumps to another song so seamlessly, it's just a nice sort of, what is it called when there's a medley? It's just kind of like an album medley, and I like that a lot.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, medleys can be nice if they're done properly.
Yes.
I've heard some songs where they don't fit. I don't like it.
Yeah, or it's too rough going from one to another.
Yeah, exactly. So my number 3, again, we're not going to agree on this one, but we still have a 2 out of 3 chance, two possible songs to connect with.
Oh, I hope your number 1's my number 1.
maybe. I think we might have it. But my number 3 is Beyond This Life. So that's one we already knew we didn't agree on.
Yes.
As I said, despite the fact that the vocals, this is one of those tracks I commented on vocals just taking away from what was happening. There was still a lot going on, and as I mentioned about other bands' influences, I liked hearing that.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, they like this, so this is probably what they were thinking or listening to when they wrote their songs.
Yeah.
So that kind of got me excited, especially as a musician. Like, I like hearing where these influences come from. This is what your music came from, and I like your music, so not that I enjoy it for that reason, but I respect it, but also I did like the song.
Yeah.
Minus the first 3 minutes.
Dance of Eternity. Instrumental, it rocks. I like it. No vocals. Instrumental, I like it. Hard stop, the end.
We now have only one chance. So whatever I say for number 2 is going to be like the make or break of whether or not our number 1 matches. Because my number 2, actually...
Straight face, no reaction.
I'm looking at our list real quick. If in case anyone's wondering why I'm taking so long to say this, I'm just seeing what we have left on our list here.
Yep.
Whatever, but I'll also say my number 2. Mine was The Dance of Eternity.
Mm-hmm. Ooh,
so
nice.
If that says anything. Yeah, I also really enjoyed this track. Again, a lot going on in this one, but it was all there, and I was present for it. So, yeah. I mean, like, the fact that you can do so much, but I'm still, like, very present in the moment, it's got to be somewhere high on my list, so it's number 2.
My number 2 is, drumroll please, Fatal Tragedy. I can look past the vocals in this song because I enjoy the music so much that if it was an instrumental, cool, I'd like it. With vocals, cool, I still like it. I just like the composition, the playing, even the production. I enjoy it. I like it.
Yeah. Very understandable. Then that means we, for the second week in a row, agree with our number 1s.
Oh, yeah.
We got home. We went home on this one.
That has been my favorite song in this album since the day I listened to it. There is something, it might be that. There's just, it's rocking, it kind of feels sort of out of place on the album just because it doesn't have some of the, oh my God, sorry. I just got a new kitten and she just jumped on the top of my booth. So we're just going to take her down. Anyone on YouTube can see my little kitty. Wrote her down. Anyways, back to the task at hand. It sounds kind of out of place on the album just because it doesn't have some of the attributes that the other songs do. And I think that's why I like it so much. It's different, and I like that.
It is, yeah. And I as I mentioned, like, this gave me like a lot of Tool and Tea Party vibes, and I love both of those bands.
Yeah.
I like that they introduced the sitar in it, so it added a new element to the entire theme of the album. So that was refreshing. You barely notice the 13 minutes go by, or like almost 13 minutes.
Yeah.
A lot of compelling imagery, as I said. Just this song really made the album to me. Like, when I got to this track, considering this is the song that followed the worst track on the album, it was so relieving because I was afraid that if Home was bad when I was first listening to it, like, I was going to be in such a shit mood going forward on this album. But thankfully, it not only redeemed the album, like, well, it redeemed itself, it redeemed the album. Don't know if it redeemed the previous track, but the idea is it's good enough to appear on the top of my list.
Yes, and top of mine. And it's been on the top of mine for, 2021 right now? I would say at least the last 15 years for sure.
I don't think I can consistently have a number 1 song. I've tried, but it doesn't last for more than a month.
Well, I mean, you've seen both of our lists of this album, and I don't know what else I would put up there. So, Home, constant, I love it, number 1.
Fair enough. And backtracking a little bit, another reason to watch the YouTube version of this if you want to see Savannah's new kitten. Everyone loves cats, so by all means, tune in, and as soon as you like that kitten, leave a comment exactly when you saw it.
Oh,
Just trying to get that crowd interaction.
Oh, yeah. Well, like you said, everybody likes cats, and if you don't, you do. You do.
So the good news is we're 2 for 12 on that one. So at least we have more to add to our lifetime here.
I like how we match the best and the worst and nothing in between.
And then all the other ingredients on the sandwich were just piled in randomly.
Yep.
And the buns were still thorough.
Exactly.
The moldy top bun, but the solid gold bottom bun. I usually say we don't like to say worst to best when we do these rankings, but this is the week where that's the exception to the rule. I really hope that if anyone's listening to this and actually truly enjoys that song, we're just having fun. Again, continue to love the song. Please don't stop just because I'm an idiot like me.
Yeah, and Dream Theater is still going to tour and they're still going to write albums, so, you know.
And they're still probably going to play that song live.
They will. They will.
Alrighty then, it's time for the feature presentation that comes all the way at the end of the presentation. It's time to rate the album or the record.
Where does it land? We gotta get some sort of theme transition where does it land? Where does it land on the ranking? But not that. Let's cut that out, please.
Well, I would no. That's gonna stay in now. That's on you.
Record label. Oh, please sign me, please.
They're gonna sit there like, interesting. I was more or less thinking using the transition from Wayne's World.
Yes. All right, that's a little better than mine.
So now through the magic of editing, I'm gonna go ahead and bring up the screen so we can rate the record. All right, as we said, feature presentation to the magic of editing. It's time to rate the record, the moment you've all been waiting for, maybe. So we obviously had a lot to say about this album, both good and bad, particularly some bad. But I think, we rated this fairly, at least to our, own thoughts and opinions on this, especially you, Savannah, being like, a fan of Dream Theater and having heard this album for so long. So here's the crazy part. If you don't know, we don't discuss our song rankings beforehand, so that's like a complete surprise to us. But what we do discuss beforehand is the album rating, because I need to know where to put it going into this podcast.
Yep.
Not only did we agree on a tier, but our percentages for this album were the exact same, and we don't discuss this beforehand. Like, we don't plan that.
Nope.
So before we only discuss the scores just before the podcast starts, like before we start recording. So I'm emphasizing this because of how crazy and coincidental this is. Like, it's absolutely insane.
I had to show you my tally on my calculator to prove that it was the exact same.
You quite literally held it up to the screen so I could see it, and it's like dead on the same.
Yeah.
Even though I'm pretty sure our song scores were different, it all equaled up in the end.
Yeah.
So, we both agreed on the exact same number. Dream Theater. Where is it going to end up? Ooh. We gave it a score of 62.5. So it sits right in the middle of the B. It's probably pretty much at a B because you have your B plus, your B, and then your B minus.
Yeah.
So this is sitting straight up at a B, 62.5%. Our very first B tier album.
Still passing.
Yeah, I mean, B's never been a fail.
Yep.
I think it's in college it gets a little more strict. Like if you get a D, you fail. But don't worry, this one still passes. It's just not on the honor roll.
Yes. Yep. Which is okay. Some of the really good songs just couldn't pull up some of the other ones, but I think having those transition tracks in there kind of brought it down a little bit, because you can't really give a 1 minute, small song a 10 or a 9 out of 10, right? So
yeah, and so that's probably what bumped the score down a lot. But I can tell you right now, one of the full songs through her stupid fucking eyes. I'll be straightforward. So, like, we rank songs out of 10, or at least I do anyway.
Yes. Why?
And it's the lowest score I've given a song in the 3 episodes we've done so far. I gave it 2 out of 10. Ooh. I gave it 2 for just being a song, but nothing else except for, I think the 2 is literally the fretless bass.
I just for the sake of transparency, I gave it a 5, and I tend to sort of hover around the same sort of area because it really has to be trash to get really bad, which I'm definitely seeing your feelings here. But yeah, I give mine 50%. It's kind of a I know teachers don't give out 50% unless you really ask them, hey, please, can I please pass? I don't want to take summer school, please. I know I had a 48, but come on.
Just barely like, okay, I'll give you 50.1.
Yeah, exactly. It was a gimme.
Boom, again through the magic of editing. It's gone and we're back. I know, it's terrible. But don't worry, we're not just back because we're leaving now, because that is the end of the podcast. That's the end of the episode for the day. Probably a little more harsh than most people would have thought we could have been on it, but at the same time, that's where I thought the album would land.
I'm satisfied with our number 1 choices. That's really the entire show for me. Just leads up to, do you like what I like? And when you do, I'm really pleased with that. I like that. It validates my preferences, and I enjoy that.
So I like how Home and The Reason They Hate Me are now our gold tier songs.
Yes.
Our matching number 1s.
Hell yeah.
Eventually we'll make a playlist of just our number 1s.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
Maybe we'll do that one day, but in the meantime, we're going to go ahead and say thank you very much for listening into this podcast. We hope you enjoyed it, had some fun with us. Even if you're a little angry at the scores, and maybe if I really hurt your feelings on your favorite song there, again, we're just having fun. Yes. I don't hate you for liking that song. I just don't like the song, that's all, so that's the only difference. Yep. But anyways, once again, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe on the YouTube especially, but if you're listening to the audio portion, we're on Anchor, we're on CastBox, and that's only going to keep growing from here on out.
I do want to know, do you have any spoilers for who we have next week?
Well, I kind of went into that a little bit earlier. So it's a duo. They only made the one album. They're, as far as I'm concerned, they're never doing anything again, including playing live.
Ooh,
it's a hip-hop album. That's right, we're going to have our first hip-hop album, but it's not the kind of hip-hop you'd be expecting. It's very, let's just say, different.
Did you do this to me because I did this to you?
Maybe.
Oh, I'll take it in stride. It's fine.
It's a really fun album. I think, as long as you got an open mind, you're really going to enjoy it. And like the rapper, I'll say at the very least, he's got to be the best out there. This is, again, more spoilers, I guess. Like, he is so articulate. He has like a dictionary of words that like, there are hundreds of words per song that are just unique words, not just repeating words. He's fantastic for it. Really fun to listen to, and the guy producing him is weird but awesome.
Ooh. I'm intrigued yet scared.
I don't know what else to say without giving away spoilers. Like, I don't even want to say who the rapper is. I don't want to say who the producer is.
Oh,
because they're combining for one project.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I might be saying a little too much. But anyways, that'll be next week. Yes. But this so far has been episode 3, Dream Theater's Metropolis Part 2. Once again, thank you very much for listening. We hope you'll come back next week. Make sure you follow our social medias.
Yes.
Rate the Record Podcast on Facebook and Instagram. Rate the Record on Twitter. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, we do have ratetherecord@gmail.com. Just make sure you use the subject field and tell us what you want, because we don't want any spam or anything like that.
We want to hear from you. Even comments, questions, ideas, anything. Just connect with us. We'd love to talk to you.
We're down for it because we're only trying to expand the show.
Yes.
So in the meantime, you can help by sharing. That'll expand the show. And you can do that all week now because we're done. So thank you very much for listening. Take care of yourselves, and we'll see you again next time.
Bye-bye.